QuickBooks Point of Sale reports and doing reporting. As you can see, we are on the version 12, which is the latest version of QuickBooks Point of Sale.
Right on.
I repeated that because I just started my recording. Okay, so that you can watch this again later. All right, so reports, we have 3 different ways we can get to reports. You can come over here to reports in the blue menu button, and it's going to take you directly into reports and into the report center. From here, you can choose some common reports that get ran frequently, or you can choose one of the memorized reports. You can go to all reports and then choose what category you want to run a report for and what reports are available in that particular category. You could also go to reports over here in the navigator. You can go to the report center where we just went. They even have another report which you can sneak off to, which is the dashboard. The dashboard is a set of pre-designed reports that show you various reports that Intuit thought was pretty cool stuff. And my pretty cool stuff is really, really boring because I don't have much in mine. But it shows you.
But right on.
Yeah, but it shows you department sales. It shows you sales over time, comparison this year to last year for the same time range. Shows you your best-selling items and all kinds of fun little stuff. But since I never do anything in mine except demo, there's not much in mine to look at. The last way is up here under reports on the menu bar. We can click on that and we get a drop down of the various things. We get the report center again. We get the dashboard again. We can also go view our drawer count history. If when you do your end of day, you do the Z out with drawer count, it'll save those for a month, and you can go up here and you can go back and review those older drawer counts.
Oh, wow, that's kind of nice.
We've got sales, which shows you a list of your various sales reports you can run. We have, and that's divided into 4 areas here. We've got general sales reports. We've got graphs. We've got some multi-store reports, and we've got your taxes. Under cash drawer, we can run the X out, Z out, or a list of payouts you might have created. Payments has a neat little report, and that is this payment summary report. The payment summary report shows you a list of the transactions you've had by payment type.
Wow.
You choose the date range, and it shows you what happened on that day. It shows you how much cash, how much debit, how much credit cards, how much account, gift card, or checks you took in during that particular period of time. At the bottom, it shows you the total for that period of time.
Oh, wow.
And that is horribly rude. My mouse just quit on me. I hate it when that happens. And so you can see where my mouse is hanging out there, that sometimes you can get a little magnifying glass. When you get that magnifying glass, you are able to double click on that particular item and zoom in on whatever generated that particular thing in the sales sheet.
All right.
I am re-plugging in my mouse pointer. Hopefully it's alive again. It's alive again.
Yeah. Success. Nice.
Yeah. So you can point at one of those days, double click, then it shows you the transactions that occurred on that day. When you see the transactions, you can see the payment type, you can see the total, you can see how much tax was collected on that sale, and what the subtotal was on that sale, how many items were on that sale, and these little pluses all the way at the beginning will allow you to click on it and expand it and see the items that were on the receipt. You can also click expand up here at the top and expand them all.
Oh, wow.
You can see the details on the receipt, or you can just see the summary of the receipt. Now I have more than one report open. I can click on the X up here under Sales Detail. It will close that report, but still leave me in my payment summary report. I can close out of that. And now I'm in my report center. And again, we have the various reports we can run for that particular one. And we were just looking at payments. We got the payment summary. We can run a list of checks that shows the checks we took in during a specific time period. One that people tend to like is this gift certificate list.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. So you can see
we
what's
run that.
existing?
Yeah, we pick a time period.
Yeah.
We say run this report, and it shows me all my gift certificates. I can sort them by certificate number so that I can see when the gift certificate was given out and when the gift certificate was used. And I've even added a name to mine so I can see who used it.
Oh, nice.
If I wanted to modify this report, I would go up to Modify. If I click Revert, it will change back to the original way that report is set up. I can then change the date range I'm looking at. I can apply that date range, and I get more stuff. By default, it sorts by date. But date's okay, but it doesn't mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think sorting by certificate makes more sense because then I can see if this gift certificate was issued, if it was used, and if there's anything left on it.
Oh, wow, that's nice. Okay.
I can also go up here to Modify, and I would like to see who used the certificate. So I can come down here and I can add the customer's name. I can add their full name or their last name or their first name. I'll add their full name, and I'll do a save and a run, and now I've got who used the gift certificate.
Oh, all right.
I could even add to it the item number, the receipt number, that shows me what receipt that transaction occurred on. When this gets cut off like this, I can either grab the edge, get the little double-headed arrow and drag it out, or I can right-click on the header bar, tell it to adjust columns, and it'll readjust the columns to fit the widest thing in that column. And so then I can see what receipt number that occurred on so that I could go to that receipt and actually look at it if I wanted to. Now, if I close this report and I open it again, it's going to open up the same way that I left it. Because you will notice that when we went to Modify, if we add or remove columns, our only choice down here is Save.
Okay.
We went to Filter Data, our only choice is Save. We don't have an Apply. So if we do something, it saves it 99% of the time. And next time you open that report, it's going to come back up the way you last modified it, since it saved your changes.
All right. Okay.
If you open a report and aren't getting anything like what you think you should get, then you would go to Modify and choose Revert. That will change the report back to the way it comes out of the box so that it removes any filters or other changes you may have made to the report so that you get back your full normal report. If you set up a report, you add columns you really like, you add filters you really like, and you want to be able to save it that way but not limit what you can see in that particular report, you can go over here to I want to, and you can memorize this report. When you memorize the report, it says give it a name, and I can call it my gift certificate list. I can say OK, and now that's saved. If I close out of that and I open back up the gift certificate list, I still see the one that I modified. But if I say, well, I don't want the modified version here, I want the normal version, I can go to Modify and Revert. Now we're back to the standard out-of-the-box version, which is today. But if I go to All Reports, I go down to Memorized Reports. You can see here's that My Gift Certificate list I memorized. And when I run that, I get my one for the full year with my full name and receipt number added to it and sorted by certificate. So if you lay out one the way you really like, you can memorize it. Then you can convert the other one back to its normal view so that when you go to run something, you don't come up with a blank report. So where'd it go? I know I had something. Well, because what you had is not in that date range or under that filter.
Deal.
And so also under payments, you can look at credit card list, debit card list, or gift card list, as well as account charges. Customers gives you several choices. You can run a customer list, which gives you a list of your customers. And you might have noticed that little flash there. If you put it to a little sheet of paper in front of the name, it gives you kind of an idea of what that report might look like.
Oh, okay.
So we can run a customer list, a demographics graph. So if we click that and say run, it's really, really boring. If we change the date range, we can get who spent what, and then it breaks it down over here, what zip codes spent the most money. Blank
Nice.
says there was no address on there with the zip code, so who knows where they were. I could run a zip code summary. If you use promo codes, you can also take a look at where your promo codes are from. You can look at a customer type summary if you have customer types. You can look at your layaway details that you have, your sales order details, or summaries of your orders and deposits. You can see what you have currently on back order. The back order report will tell you any items that you have on a sales order that are still on back order. You can point at it and double click, and it will show you what that item is.
Mm.
We also have, if you have a rewards program set up, we can also look at who is part of the rewards program or what rewards have been used. And it shows what rewards have been redeemed or earned or expired. Because I have an expiration date on my rewards, if someone doesn't use it, it expires within a certain time period.
Mm.
Under items, we can take a look at our inventory. We can run a summary, which shows us a summary of what we have by department. Shows us how many items we have in that department, how many items we have on order from that department, what the extended cost is of that merchandise, so the value of our inventory, and what the retail is of that inventory if we sold it all at full retail.
Okay.
And again, we could modify that. We could add to the columns. And anything that is in this list, you can add to the report. If it's not there, you're unable to add it. We could also filter the data to reduce how much information we see. We could do by item type, and we could choose inventory items, non-inventory items, whatever, for our item type and see what might fall into those categories. We could look for a particular item name, item description, attributes. We could look at everything we had that was red, or everything that we had was a medium. And so you can filter it for whatever might make sense for what information you're trying to find out.
All right.
We could take a look at things that had reorder points between here and there. And so lots of different options for what we're going to be seeing in our report. We've got summary with activity. That one's kind of cool. What that one shows is you pick your date range, and it shows us what department the items were in, how many we have in inventory, and how many we have sold of that item. So like item number 2 here, which is item number 400 actually, you can see that our extended price is $152. We have 4 of them on hand. Our cost is $72, and we haven't sold any. If we drop down here to this guy, we can see its item number. We can see our extended price is minus 120 because we've sold 2 more than we have. We have a quantity of -2, but we sold 3 of them. So that means we got to wonder where those 2 people got those 2 because we don't have any. But so you can see what you did and how many you've sold, how many you have, and so it's kind of cool. Neat little report.
Yeah,
you can also
definitely
change the date range. Date range is not going to change your inventory because your inventory is what your inventory is, but it will change what you sold during that time period. Now, if you want to know what your inventory was at a particular time, we have the Inventory Valuation Report. That report lets you pick a date and run it. And this shows you what your inventory was on that date. In this case, January 1st, 2015. It is broken down by department. It shows me what the total is I have for that department or each individual item. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, I said all the way to the bottom, I get my total inventory. I got a weird cost. And I have how many items I have in inventory. I can go back up here and I can change the date and apply that. Now our inventory quantities have changed. And you can see my inventory value changed a little bit instead of my on hand. Didn't change much because I don't sell much out of my inventory.
Okay.
But you can pick and look at what your inventory was on any date. If you need to know what it was at the end of the first quarter, then we can crank it back to April 1st or March 31st, and we see our inventory for that date and time. And you see my little wood grain scarves weren't negative at that time, which they are today. And again, we can scroll all the way down there to the bottom, and we get our total. So, kind of neat.
Absolutely.
Now, I have had a complaint about this report, and that complaint is someone wanted to modify it, and they wanted to add the retail price. You'll notice there's no retail price here. There's no retail price down here. They can look at the cost. They can look at quantities. They can break quantity down by what store. I've got HQ, but they can't. And I've got my remote in my HQ store, and I got my company quantity. So I can see my cost by store, but I can't see what my retail is for that merchandise. And so that was one of the complaints I had about that report, because they wanted to use that for a kind of an open to buy report, seeing what they've got and how much they have open to buy based on what the retail is.
Oh, okay.
But it won't show retail. The item list report will show you everything you have in inventory, and it will show you your retail, but it's what you have right this minute. You don't have any option for seeing it at a particular time.
Okay.
It's right now. But it does have both retail and cost. I've also added to it last received date. When did I last receive this item? And so I know if I got something I received a long time ago and that I got a bunch of, I need to do something to get rid of them. So I need to create some kind of sale to help move those out. And that report can be really useful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have multiple stores, the multiple store inventory will show you a report on each of your stores individually. And you can see I have a lot of stuff in my second store. I have 9 whole items.
9 whole items, yeah.
I can modify this report. I can go to modify. I can go to add or remove columns, and I could add an item number or a vendor name and an item name to give me more details. So if I want more than just department, I can go all the way to item number and get the individual items. Just depends on what kind of information you want. We also have a report we can run for transfers, which would be stuff you send between your stores. We can also look at adjustments we've made. Our quantity adjustment summary will show us anything that we have changed the quantity on for that item. It might be we set up the store and we set up how many we had at the beginning. Well, that would be a quantity change from 0 to some number, and so it shows up in a quantity adjustment memo. I could do a detail, and it would show me each individual memo where the adjustments were made.
Oh, okay.
I could click on one of the pluses again and see exactly what was adjusted on that memo. Or I could hit expand and see what was done on each memo. Here you can see that I deleted something out of inventory. Here I edited something. When you see item edited as a reason, that means that I went directly to that item and changed that item.
Okay.
Physical inventory says that memo was created when I took a physical inventory. If you see other ones, like here, this one was set up to create an assembly. This one I went into a quantity adjustment memo and added the reason of quantity adjust. If you just change it, you're going to get item edited. If you do a physical, you'll get physical. If you delete, you'll get delete. If you go to a quantity adjustment memo and create an adjustment memo, then you can add a reason as to why you made that change, which is really the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, instead of getting a dozen memos, you can put a dozen different things on one memo, and you got less clutter. All right. Purchasing. I can see what I have on order, what I have extended on a purchase order. I can see what I have currently received or recently received, and I can look at my vendors. So if I want to have an idea what I have on order, I can go to a summary, and this shows me any purchase orders that I might have outstanding, who the vendor is, and what department the stuff is for.
Okay.
I could run a detail report, and it will show me each different purchase order. And again, I can click on the plus and see what's on that purchase order. Or I can see the total of that purchase order and how many items are still due off of that purchase order. Whether anything has come in or not. So these 100% unfilled means nothing has come in.
Mm.
This one here, which is 70% unfilled, means something on that purchase order came in. And I can see here that I have some of these items that are still have an item due, and some that have actually received the item. If I look at a receiving summary, it will show me the vouchers or the stuff I have received and what vendor I received it from. How many items and what the dollars were. If I run the detail report, then it will show me the individual purchase orders that those transactions occurred on. During whatever date range I look at. Under employees, if you pay commissions, you can run a commissions report, which will show you the commissions that your employees have earned. Shows you the employee name, shows you the retail of their receipt, shows you the commission percentage that they've received, and what the dollar amount is for those commissions. And again, you can define the date range to run whatever date range you would like to see. We also can look at employee sales, and we can see how many sales each employee has had. Well, no one did anything today. I don't know about these people. And so we can see how much each different employee has done over whatever period of time we define. If we like to have more fun, we can do it on a sales graph. And isn't that exciting? There, that was a little better. So now we've got some other employees selling something instead of all sysadmin. We can look at it by associate or by cashier. Generally, they're both the same thing. When you log into a receipt, the cashier is who's logged into the computer. The associate is who gets credit for the sale. By default, they're both set up to be the same thing. If you have one person primarily running the register and salespeople run around making the sales, and you pay commission, that person making the sale can get credit for it because you can change who the associate is at the time they're ringing up the sale. So got one person in the register, but different people can get credit for the sale.
Okay.
You can look at those sales by extended price, cost, margin, total dollars, or quantity. Let's see. If you do tips, you can take a look at what your tips were. You can also look at a weekly timesheet, which shows you any clock in and clock out you may have had. And nobody clocked in last week. Amazing. You can do time clock detail, which allows you to see each clock in and out. And here, under Modify, you can run a filter to change the date range that you're looking at. And nobody's clocked in all year long. But you can adjust, and it will show you who it is, what date they clocked in, what time they clocked in, what date they clocked out, what time they clocked out, and the elapsed time between the ins and the outs. You can also just run a list of your employees, which shows you who you currently have in your employee roster. Financial exchange. If you connect to QuickBooks Accounting, then this shows you what you've done with your financial exchange. It'll show us the receipts that we've exchanged or whatever other option you choose. Vouchers, and it will show us the vouchers that we have done.
Okay.
And the vouchers that have been sent over to QuickBooks Accounting. Or you can look at memos, or customers, or vendors. And that brings us back down to our memorized reports. Kind of a handy little memorized report is this one here, today's receipts. Assuming we have something on that done today. And it shows you what transactions you have done that day and what the tender type was. You can also take a look at busy times and see what times are the busiest. You can run it by time of day. You can run it by day of the month. And it shows you what day of the month are the busiest. It tells you over here how many transactions occurred on that day. You could also run it by day, and it shows you which days of the week are the busiest. Or which month is the busiest. And so you can look at it in whatever manner tells you the most information. Each one can be helpful. The hour graph lets you see, well, when am I the busiest? When do I need to have the most people scheduled to be on staff? The day will tell you which days of the week are the busiest, and so which days do I need to make sure I've got the most staff available? Which days are better to give people days off on?
Oh, nice.
All right. "20 best-selling items" isn't bad. It tells you what items are selling the best. You can look at it either by quantity sold. You can look at it by the extended price for those items. When you click on the little ball, actually I clicked on cost. When you click on the little ball, it sorts it from lowest to highest. If you click again, it does from highest to lowest. So when I click on it the first time, I get my worst sellers. When I re-click on it, I get my best sellers. And you can do the same thing with quantity, from your worst sellers to your best sellers. All right. Any questions about anything?
Not so far.
So that brings us to the last step, which is that custom report.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So that's creating your own report, which you're right. Now that I've watched you modify them, I see now how the add and remove columns has a lot more potential. It's like, okay, so.
Right, because you pick one that's kind of what you want, and add or remove columns to get it exactly what you want.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm like anxious to go in and kind of see, but so creating a report from scratch, though, that sounds.
Right. Yeah, and if you like your results, maybe you can always go, I want to memorize that report, and it'll be there next time you want to run it.
Perfect.
So if we go down here and we look at create a report, it says what kind of report do you want to create? Well, if I want to do an inventory report, and I go next, what kind of inventory report do I want? An item list? A summarized inventory? If I want to summarize it, how do I want to summarize it? Department, vendor, or style? I could do a graph by department or vendor. I could do an inventory evaluation, or I can do one for what I sell on my mobile sales. If I choose the inventory evaluation and go next, I get what date range do I want to run it for, and I get what columns do I want. And you'll notice they're the exact same columns we saw when we looked at the modify.
Okay.
I don't have anything extra anywhere. I still can't do price.
Yeah,
So I get the exact same choices I got when I just said inventory evaluation report, modify. I can check or uncheck the columns. I can tell it how I want to sort it. And depending on how I sort it, I may or may not want subtotals by that sorted field. If I'm sorting by department or vendor, I probably want a subtotal. If I'm sorting by item number or name, I probably don't want a subtotal.
Okay.
So, but I can make my changes, I can save my report, and I can memorize it if I like the results. So creating a report, not too difficult to do, but really difficult to come up with anything that's going to give you more information than modifying an existing report.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so I rarely bother to create a report because I can usually modify an existing one quicker and easier than I can create one from scratch.
Yeah.
And if I like my modifications, I just memorize it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic. I've always wondered, I think you've memorized reports for us in the past, and that's how we have like our seasonal things with a seasonal code.
Right.
And then also our daily sales. That makes a lot more sense now. Can we just take a look, or well, if you're finished, at the inventory evaluation, the evaluation section report again?
So we go back to items. We got the inventory evaluation. We tell it what date range we want, and you pick any particular date you want, and you run it. and it gives you what your inventory was on that date.
Okay.
I've got department, I've got item number, I've got item name, I've got my attribute, my size, the individual cost of each item, the extended cost of the items, and how many I currently have in stock. Or actually had in stock on that date, not currently.
Okay. So the item list report, was that the report where you got to see the breakdown between, like you can do department,
right.
vendor?
Right. If we do the item list report, we get department, we get vendor, we get item name. I could have item number if I wanted it. On-hand quantity, my margin, my cost, my extended cost, my active or current price for each item, my extended price, how many do I have for all of my have in stock, when did I last receive it, and how many are currently available. Because available might be different than on hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
If you have something on a purchase order or a layaway, technically it's not available.
Okay, and yeah, that would be the separate reports for orders and purchase orders and such.
Right.
Okay. And this you could modify much like anything else to say whatever.
So we go up here to modify.
Yeah.
And anything that's not checked, I could add. I don't have attribute and size.
Okay.
I don't have item number, but I could add those if I wanted to. I could add whether I have any currently on order. I could add regular price instead of active price. I could add the margin if I wanted to. I could add, do customers have any on order or any of them back ordered? So I've got lots of
so many options. Yeah, absolutely.
stuff I can add, even whether or not it has a picture assigned to it.
So yeah, I can really utilize the modifier report on an existing report as opposed to creating one. That's awesome.
But then again, I come over here and decide what I want to sort by. And I can also change the sort in the report by just clicking on the little blue circle. Now we're sorted by vendor.
Okay. So when would you use the filter data option? Like what would...
So filter data would be, if I don't want to see everything,
okay.
I want to narrow it down. Maybe I just want to see one vendor. And so I can go down and I can choose my vendor. Get out of the way. I can go down here and I can choose vendor. And I can pick which vendor or vendors I want to see.
Okay.
And when I pick the vendor, so if I want to see Ace and Acme, and I go OK, and I go save and run, I get Ace. Oh, go away. And somewhere down here, and I get Acme. And that's the only two I've got now. So if I'm printing this report, it's not nearly as big as printing every single item I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Then, if I say, oh, wait a minute, I know I got more stuff than these two. I go up here to modify, and I can either revert it back to the straight out of the box, or I can go to filter, and I can say, well, what am I filtering for? Vendors. And I go into vendor, and I can say clear all, and OK, and save and run, and I get all my vendors back.
Nice. Okay.
Because if I had done the other one, it would have taken away some of my columns that aren't any straight out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
And depending on which report you're looking at, if you create a memorized report, and then you look at that report and you decide to change something, save it, it's going to save it on your memorized report.
Okay, just in place of the one I previously created, or a new one?
Right, in place of the one you previously created.
Okay, perfect. That's
so
good
if
to
you
know.
are sorting for certain vendors, and you look at it and say, that's not what I wanted,
Okay.
modify it and redo it, well, now you're looking at that one next time you run that report.
Okay, gotcha.
But if all you've really set on it is a date range, then you can change the date range to see whatever your new date range you want to see is. And they'll remember your new save.
All right.
So that's kind of the difference in the two reports.
Perfect.
I know what I didn't cover on my little list there was exporting this report. I can send this report to Excel if I want to. I can go up here to Excel, assuming, of course, I have Excel on my computer, and it will export that report out to Excel.
Oh, okay.
And I get my report in an Excel spreadsheet, which means I could do more manipulation because I can remanipulate it then according to whatever fun things I can do in Excel.
Yeah,
I could
absolutely.
resort things, I could add things up, do whatever. And I can save it, or I can simply close out of Excel and not save that report. All right.
All right, Daryl. Well, thank you.
So if you have any questions that pop up or anything, just feel free to give me a call.
Yes, you know we will.
Go over that.
All right, Daryl. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Hi, Susan. You stuck in there on me, Susan. I had her muted. She couldn't talk to us.
Oh, I see. Okay. But yeah,
right.
if I have any questions, I'm going to go modify some reports. We'll give you a ring.
Yep, just give me a ring or drop me a note.
All right. And this is recorded for...
This is recorded, and within a week, it'll go up on our website.
Perfect.
If you go to where you sign up for webinars, there's a button there that says recorded webinars or pre-recorded webinars, and you can go back, choose the topic, and review the ones that we did in the past.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Everybody have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.